Hey guys, how are you?
We are doing well. Now, how many Hall of Fames? I know at least two. Is it two or three?
I stopped counting. But it is a blessing, right? I mean, think about it. You play this game because you love it. You're a kid, and then the game continues to say thank you to you for your contribution. So it's very humbling. But I really actually don't count.
Yeah, well, Nancy, I know one that we're in because I share it with you, and so does my twin brother, the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, because you went to ODU in Norfolk. Me and my brother went to the University of Virginia. I'm interested how this came about with the Sacramento Kings. Was this something in the works for a long time, or did it just kind of happen?
Well, I coached for the D League. Donnie Nelson hired me 5 years ago to be the head coach of the Texas Legends, which was the Mavs affiliate. So I knew that my goal at that point was to eventually get an opportunity to coach in the NBA. And after my first season where the Legends made the playoffs, I stepped down because I had missed my son TJ's entire junior year. And I knew that would kind of slow my process down, but it was a risk that I was willing to take. And I just continued, you know what the grind is like. You grind, you do your work, and then Coach Carl had mentioned when he got the job that he would be interested in hiring me. So, you don't, as Becky and I know, you don't need 29 or 30 teams to want you. You need one that appreciates you and wants you to be a part. And when George, called me and said that this is something he'd like to do, I was thrilled. But the summer league was really important to me. I knew that I needed to be on a bench with my guys so they could realize that this was normal and that everything would be copacetic having a female on the bench and in the locker room.
Well said. And let's be honest, Nancy. I mean, the enticing part of the women's game is, for me, it's really a game that I play more than the men's game below the rim. so there's you look at the philosophies, defending the pick and roll, and setting the proper screen, and breaking the press, and all the things that transfer from men to women and women to men in just the purest basketball sense. I mean, you know that like the back of your hand, but communicating it to grown men, millionaires, I mean, where's the challenge there? Even though you're not the head coach, but the interaction is going to be, pretty often. What's the biggest challenge for, do you think, in that regard?
Well, first, let me just say, my whole life I've played against guys. I mean, I was the 13-year-old in Rucker Park playing against all the guys when I was younger, playing for the Lakers and Pat Riley in 1980 in their summer league. 2 years in the USBL, which is equivalent to the D League, over 60 games, and then for the Jazz, for Frank Layton. So, my job was not to be a girl playing in the men's league. My job was to be a basketball player. And that's the same thing with coaching. See, I don't have to go against you guys any longer. I don't have to have Karl Malone jumping over me and dunking over me. That was the really difficult part, was the physical difference. But now all I have to do, or Becky or Jen has to do, is help these guys get to the next level. And quite frankly, this generation of young players in any sport, they've been around powerful women their whole life. Their mother, they've seen corporate America, they've seen CEOs. By the way, we have a woman running for president, and if change isn't enough with that, we have a second-term African-American who's the president of the United States.
And by the way, which woman? the Democrat or the one who slayed it the other night at the first game of the doubleheader for the Republican? I mean, she was phenomenal. Point taken. Point certainly taken. Nancy Lieberman, now an assistant coach for the Kings, here with us on CBS Sports Radio. Tiki and Tierney.
Nancy, you mentioned being in the locker room with the guys. What has their reaction been to a woman in a leadership position in the locker room? Obviously, as athletes, we've become accustomed to women in locker rooms, journalists, and everything else. But in a leadership position, I think that's a dynamic that's interesting to people to try to understand.
It's actually easier because people don't understand it because they've never been around it. But, for me, people think that we're in the guys' locker room all day long. We're not. The coaches, it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female, you come in the locker room at a certain time on the clock. That is their private sanctuary. We come in as a staff. We give them the information. Then we leave. And they do what they have to do before they hit the court or the field. So it's actually very normal. We're not just rolling around in their locker rooms when they're running around, coming out of showers or prepping for the game. So, again, it's normal for me, and the guys that I have coached. It's been normal for them, but it's the outside world that, in many cases, is trying to get their mind around what kind of dynamics is this going to be. So it actually works on every level, because you guys know this as well as I do. You've been taking information from women your whole life. Your mom, your grandma, your sister, your auntie, your wives. I mean, we've been telling you what to do your whole life.
It's true.
So what's the difference? Now I'm telling you to run, flex into a screen roll. What's the difference?
I was going to say, putting down the baba a little different than saying give me 20 suicides under 9 or 10 seconds, before you have to run a few more. I'm curious how you. Let me ask you about the best player on the roster, because DeMarcus Cousins is somebody who is immensely gifted, as we all know, but there seems to be this cloud of maybe controversy is a little bit too strong, but where something's just either not right. The chemistry in the team. I know that things have changed a lot. You brought in some different players, but I've heard Coach Carl talk about him as well. Nancy Lieberman's take on Cousins, not just the basketball player, but the perceived leader, or perceived for everything that comes with being the guy for a team.
First you have to remember DeMarcus Cousins is a young guy, and he's one of the top 3 or 4 centers in the NBA right now. He wants to get better. He wants to get to that elite level, whether, it's MVP level or if it's an Olympic level, because he's in Vegas right now with the 34 other guys. So he wants to get better at everything that he does. George Karl is a Hall of Fame coach, and George will make him a better basketball player. It doesn't have to be perfect, but once these guys get around each other and they realize intrinsically what they bring to each other on and off the court, it's going to be totally different. We just need to get into training camp. George, Vlade, and DeMarcus met in Vegas a few weeks ago. They had a really nice visit with one another. These guys are both winners. And we do have a good team with the Kings. They brought in Rajon Rondo. They have Willie Cauley-Stein, who's a really talented rookie. Rudy Gay, Ben McLemore. So I think you're going to see a different team and a different style. And you're going to see a lot of love, kindness in our locker room this year. There's going to be tough love, but there's going to be a bond with the coaching staff and the players.
Yeah, no, that's usually right, Nancy, especially once you get on the court. It's all about figuring out a way to win. But is the dynamic between Vlade Divac and George Karl and DeMarcus Cousins that we've heard about all offseason, because there's nothing else to talk about, is that overblown?
I think so. I mean, these guys, like I said, will get together, and they'll kind of put their, this is what I'm feeling, this is what you're feeling, and then we'll work together. The most important thing you could ever do in communication is talk. And they're talking, and they realize that we all need each other. Tiki, this. Anybody who's been great in anything they've done, whether it's Warren Buffett or Michael Jackson or, LeBron James, they can't do it by themselves. You need others to help you reach your goals.
Nancy, I'm wondering, curiously, obviously you're the second female hired as an assistant in the NBA. We've seen it happen in the NFL as well. Is this a trend that's going to continue?
Well, here's what I know, and I did an appearance the other night with Sharon Robinson, which is Jackie Robinson's daughter, which was pretty unbelievable.
She is a special person. We've both met her. She's unbelievable.
Okay, so you know that, and as I told her, I said, Jackie affected my life, because my whole life, playing against men and being in men's leagues and coaching men, you're doing something that nobody else has done, and it can be very lonely. And sometimes you need people to be supportive of you, because you do have your moment. But, success is only what it is. It can't be just about Jackie Robinson. If one person, Becky Hammond, gets a job and nobody else gets a job, if Jackie goes to the major leagues and nobody else goes to the major leagues, African Americans, then we have failed in opportunity. But the fact that this door has been kicked open, within a year, we now have a second female, myself, coaching in the NBA. So, like I said, progress is only measured by how many will eventually be allowed to continue to earn that spot and be qualified to go into the league. Whether it's, look, I know Jen Walter really well. Matter of fact, we were texting last night, and I was telling her that, Larry Fitzgerald is like a brother to me. And Larry, texted me last night, and he's like, man, she's amazing. She's amazing. And that's all you need to know, is that there's this respect, and it's going to happen. It's not going to stop. It's going to continue to open as long as we do our job and we come prepared and we're humble and we're appreciative of these opportunities.
You just better make it official. You better get teched up at some point this season. Otherwise, it doesn't count, Nancy, okay?
Yeah, I don't want to get teched up. I'm going to let George do that.
Understood. Nancy Lieberman, if there's anybody qualified to carry this torch, it is certainly you. Congrats, and we'll be watching and we'll be rooting for you. Thank you, Nancy.
Oh, certainly.